Are you trying to start up the Warlords Ruin Dungeon in Destiny 2, but you have no idea what you're doing? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you how to complete the Warlords Ruin Dungeon step by step with each encounter. Now, let's head to the first encounter of this dungeon. What you're first going to want to do is that you're going to see the boss in the middle spawning in a ton of ads. Be sure to kill all of them. The duration for this buff lasts up to 30 seconds. So once this buff is active, it will activate automatically because the boss spawns in this taken totem. I'll explain that a little bit later. So once this buff is active, you and your teammates will be teleported into these cages. Once you're in these cages, your main goal is to shoot each and every single taken eye. As what you see here on screen, you see me shooting these eyes. Be sure to kill every single one of them. If you don't, you'll be raised all the way to the top and you'll die, and so will your teammates. So be sure to destroy every single eye that you see floating. Once you destroy every eye, the gate will open in front of you and you have to exit it. Once you exit, your goal is to go to where those taken totems are and be sure to stand inside of them for a short duration. Once you're inside of these totems, the taken ball inside of the totem will get smaller and smaller and turn into a light totem. Once it converts into a light totem, it's an indication of saying that it's good to go. So once you activate those totems, it would start the DPS phase on the boss. So the imminent wish buff, if that buff reaches to 0, then the totems will disappear. So those totems tie to that imminent wish buff. So once you activate those totems, as what I'm calling them, those taken totems, DPS will start, and then you would have a certain amount of time to DPS the boss. And you can tell when it's DPS phase when the buff says, I'm going to butcher this name, so bear with me. Naeem's Wish Empowerment. That is the DPS indicator of saying that you can be able to DPS the boss. Once the timer is fully finished when DPSing the boss, you would have to rinse and repeat it again. Once you defeat the boss, you'll head to this complicated prison area. This imprisonment is not technically an encounter, but many people are struggling to get out of this prison. So let me explain how you can be able to get out of this prison. You would first need to find numbers on the ground. Those numbers will be near skeletons. So if you don't have it, your teammate may see that number on that skeleton. The numbers will change if you will load up this dungeon again. So the gameplay that you're seeing, I had the number 4. So in total, there are 6 objects in this prison room that you would need to shoot. So in this case, my number was 4, as what you saw on the skeleton. And that's letting you know how many you need to rotate it clockwise. So there are 6 in total, and the number that I got was 4. So if you would do 6 minus 4, it would equal 2. So the answer would be 2. And then those 2 objects would have to be rotating counterclockwise instead of clockwise. So you would shoot 4 of the objects going clockwise and 2 of them going counterclockwise. Once you do that, the doors will open and you'll get your first reward. After this prison section, you're now going to go to the second encounter of this dungeon. So what you're gonna see is a taken ball floating in the middle. That taken ball, whenever you destroy it, will start the encounter and will spawn in a taken ogre. Once the taken ogre spawns, there's gonna be taken ads in the middle and a group of scorn enemies on the left and right side of this encounter. If you would kill all the groups for the scorn on left and right side, they'll immediately respawn afterwards. So keep that in mind. And there's going to be 4 pillars near the boss, and it says burning desire required. So we are going to need to get these burning balls, and we're going to have to deposit in each of the totems. And let me show you guys how you can be able to acquire it. So once you're killing ads, you're going to see these taken eyes above the ogre. As soon as you kill all of those taken eyes, there's going to be 2 captain scorns are going to spawn on the left and right side. Whenever you kill the scorned captain, it would bring upon this freezing section in the encounter. As you see here, it's called bidding cold. If that reaches up to 10 stacks, you'll die, but it'll slowly progress. So you'll get slower and slower and slower. So as soon as it reaches up to 7 stacks, you'll become slow. Once it reaches 8 stacks to 9 stacks, you'll freeze. And then for the last stack, you'll die. So in order for you to counter this, there's going to be these pillars around the area that are on fire. They're mostly going to be behind where you just spawned. So there's one on the left, middle, and right. So as soon as you stand onto these fire totems, the baiting cold would disappear very quickly. That is how you can be able to remove the bidding cold once you're in this scenario. And you're also going to have to do something else as well. As soon as you kill the Scorned Captain, he's going to drop this Taken Totem. Of course, with the last encounter, you're going to have to step inside to convert it into a light totem. Once that totem is converted into a light totem, you're then going to have to run all the way to any fire totem to cleanse your biting cold so you won't die. Whenever you're in a fire totem, you would get a buff on the left screen called Shelter of the Storm. That's an indicator of letting you know that you're safe to be in there when the cold section happens. Once you do that, an orb of fire will spawn where you just spawned for this encounter. So each of the taken totems correlates to one solar ball, which you're gonna have to deposit into any of the totems in the middle of the encounter. And I found a cool trick about this actually. You can actually spawn in 2 instead of 1. How? Let me explain. So whenever the Scorned Captains spawn, be sure to lower his health. Don't kill him, lower his health. Once his health is lowered, wait a couple seconds because he'll throw another Taken Totem on the floor. So as soon as he does that, be sure to kill him so he'll drop 2 instead of 1 if you want to be very efficient. So then after you have all of the 4 solar balls, the last ball you're going to deposit, that is where you're going to DPS first. So as soon as you deposit your last ball, DPS will start, and the DPS is kind of like Caretaker. If you don't know what Caretaker DPS is, let me explain. So the last ball you deposit starts the damage phase. Be sure to stay in the totem to stay nice and hot, but if you're not, you'll freeze to death. For each totem, you'll have 15 seconds of damaging the taken boss. And be sure to count down the time when you're in the totems to make it clear and easy for your teammates. So as soon as those 15 seconds count down, or should I say reaches to 0, that's when you're going to rotate to another totem. And that's going to be another 15 seconds of DPS. Once that is over, you're going to go to your 3rd one, then after that, your 4th one, and that is it for DPSing the boss. So you just gotta have to pay attention to the time and keep rotating totems after totems until everything dissipates. As soon as damaging the boss is over, you're gonna have to rinse and repeat the cycle again, and then as soon as you do, you get the reward when he's dead. Now onto the final encounter of this dungeon. You're basically going to fight a Taken Meatball, and here's how to do it. As soon as you start the encounter, you'll see the Taken Meatball in the middle of the encounter. He's gonna have, of course, these Taken eyes, 3 on the left, 3 on the right side. As soon as you destroy all 6 of those Taken eyes, 2 Scorned Captains will spawn, 1 on the left, 1 on the right, with other adds as well. Same thing as the other encounters. You kill the captain, he'll drop a Taken Totem, stand in it, and cleanse the totem. But there's another catch. As you're doing that, there's gonna be a Scorn enemy, those Scorns with those, the ones holding the fire flames. Those are going to be converted into like a Taken version of a Scorn. And you're also going to get a debuff called Hex of Vengeful Corruption. If this reaches to 0, you die. So in order for you to remove this, what you're going to have to do is play tag. Yes, the childhood game, tag. What you're going to have to do is run towards them and punch them. As soon as you punch him, the debuff will transfer onto him, and be sure to run away from him as like the game tag. So as soon as you're doing that, get as much totems as possible because each totem increases the timer for DPS phase for the boss. So as soon as the Imminent Wish buff has disappeared and you're also cleansed all of your taken totems, you will now start the damage phase for this boss. Once you see the buff, Naeem's Wish Empowerment, that is the DPS indicator to DPS the taken meatball. So once you're damaging the boss to reach that certain threshold, as you see on the health bar, that little orangish yellowish type of bar, as soon as you reach that threshold, you'll now go on to another phase of the boss. This boss has multiple phases, so be sure to keep that in mind. So now once you complete the first phase of the boss, you're going to have to go to the right side of the encounter. Those taken balls on the right side would convert into objects for you to get onto. And as soon as you head up, you're going to do the same thing as what I just mentioned before, rinse and repeat. So the more phases you do, you gradually go all the way to the top of this encounter. There's going to be these certain platforms that are going to be converted into taken. Do not go on those because they'll deal a lot of damage to you. And for me, what I would do is that whenever I see the taken meatball, look at a plate, I go to that plate. There's also going to be a ton of eyes for you to remove the shield from the taken meatball. And you're also going to have a lot more time DPSing the boss once you're at the tippy top. Once you reach to the final final stand of the boss. Of course, shoot the eyes again to remove the shield from the boss. Then use everything that you got to demolish the boss, and as soon as you do, you'll complete the Warlords Ruin Dungeon. So mostly for this raid, there's going to be tons of totems for you to get on to cleanse. That's the majority of this raid, and also paying attention to the timer, because for some debuffs like the final encounter, you can die, and same with the second encounter. And if I did miss anything from this dungeon, be sure to let me know in the comments. And if this video helped you, be sure to hit that like and sub button, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good rest of your day, take care, and peace.